I looked into his eyes, and it felt like I was staring at a mirror. Same voice, same name, same birthday, but I had never met him before in my life. Who was he? And why was everyone pretending I was him? My name is Yegor Tereshchenko, and I thought I knew who I was. That belief shattered the moment I stepped into the dormitory in Kiev, and people started calling me, "Welcome back," before I'd even introduced myself. I had just transferred from a provincial university to a top capital institute. I was nervous, yes, but excited to start a new chapter. My grandma came with me. She raised me after my mother died during childbirth. My father? A ghost. Visits twice a year, and even then, barely a conversation. We arrived at the dorm with my bags and my documents in hand. The moment we walked through the front door, a guy about my age grinned and slapped me on the back like we were old friends. "Yeah, you're back early," he said. I froze. "Sorry, do I know you?" He blinked. "Wait, you're not," and then walked off, confused. Weird. Next stop, the front desk. I handed the lady my documents. "Hi, I'm Yegor Tereshchenko, here to check into my room." She didn't even look at the papers. Her eyes narrowed. This some kind of joke? I frowned. "No, ma'am. I was assigned room 341. "Room 341, she snorted. "You've already moved in. Weeks ago." "What? No, this is my first day here." "You trying to be funny?" she snapped, standing up. I showed her my ID, student card, all of it. She took a long look. You are Yegor Tereshchenko. But something's not right. Eventually, after a few tense minutes, she muttered, "Fine. Go to 341 and see for yourself. But don't say I didn't warn you." With my heart pounding, I climbed the stairs and knocked on the door. Two guys opened it and instantly broke into wide grins. "Yeah," they laughed. "You finally made it back." I think you're mistaking me for someone else," I said. They stared. One leaned closer. "Bro, are you messing with us? You literally slept in that bed for 2 semesters." "I transferred here today," I said, holding up my student card again. "Look, different patronymic. Mine is Mykolaievich, not Romanovich." They looked at each other. "Wait," one said slowly. "So, you're not the same Yegor Tereshchenko?" "No." Their expressions melted from amused to horrified. The one called Yuri muttered, "Dude, this is seriously messed up. You guys look like clones. It's freaky." I asked them questions. About the other Yegor. Apparently, he was on a student exchange in Germany. He had left a couple of weeks ago and was due back in 2. They showed me his pictures. I stared at the screen, jaw-dropping. He did look exactly like me. I mean, exactly. Same sharp jawline, same brown eyes, same messy hair, same tired smile that I saw every morning in the mirror. Except it wasn't me. I called Grandma that night. "Babuja, you're not going to believe this, but there's someone here who looks just like me, and has my name, and was born the same day." There was a pause. "Maybe it's a coincidence," she said carefully. "People do look alike sometimes." "No, you don't understand. Everyone mistook me for him, even the dorm manager." Silence. "Babuja," I asked, voice trembling, "did Mom give birth to twins?" She sighed. "Don't be ridiculous, Yegor. I'd know." But would she? Would she really? Because now, even I wasn't sure anymore. I needed answers. And the only way to get them was to track down the people who raised him, the other Yegor, his adoptive parents. I asked the dorm supervisor for their contact details. She refused. "I'm not getting involved in any drama," she said. "Wait until your twin gets back." My twin. She said it like it was a joke. But I wasn't laughing. The next day, I decided to visit the hospital where I was born. The receptionist looked confused. "That was 18 years ago?" "Yes," I said. "And my mom died in childbirth. I think she might have given birth to twins." She disappeared, then came back with an elderly nurse. "You might want to talk to Alya. She's been here the longest." I met Alya in a little courtyard behind the hospital. She squinted up at me. "You look familiar," she said. 18 years ago," I began, "a woman died here during childbirth. My mother. Blonde, tall. Her name was Svetlana Tereshchenko." Her face changed. "Oh, I remember her," she said softly. "She had twins. 2 baby boys." My heart stopped. What happened to the second one? I was told one went to his father, the other to the orphanage. I felt dizzy. "You mean, I have a brother?" She nodded. "If what I remember is right, yes." I thanked her, stumbled out of the courtyard like a ghost. My legs were jelly, my mind racing. This wasn't just some bizarre coincidence. It was real. I had a twin brother, and he had no idea I existed. I wasn't ready to share my life with a stranger who looked exactly like me. But I couldn't shake the feeling. We weren't strangers at all. After what Alia told me, I couldn't sit still. I needed to see him, talk to him, understand who he was. The guy who had unknowingly stolen my name, my face, maybe even my life. But there was one huge problem. He was still abroad, and wouldn't be back for another week. I didn't want to wait. Every second felt like an eternity. My thoughts were spiraling. What if he knew about me? What if he didn't? What if he had lived the kind of life I was supposed to live? Had he grown up with both parents? Did he know love the way I had to learn it from just grandma? My phone buzzed. It was Yuri from the dorm room. Yuri, hey bro. Just talked to the other Yer online. He's still not convinced you exist. Faced with tears of joy, want to talk to him? I replied instantly. Me, yes. Give me his contact. Please. Yuri, he's offline now, but I'll try to set up a video call. In the meantime, you want to come hang out? I agreed. Maybe his roommates could tell me more. I walked into room 341 like it had been mine all along. I sat on the bed that wasn't mine, but should have been. They showed me photos again. Him with their group at the lake. Him laughing at a party. Him standing beside his parents. My throat tightened. They weren't my parents, but the warmth in those photos felt like something I had missed out on. Then I noticed something strange. He doesn't look like his parents, I said. Yuri nodded. Yeah, everyone says that. Adopted, maybe? Bingo. The pieces were falling into place. I stood up. Do you have their number? They shook their heads. Maybe the dorm supervisor does. I didn't waste time. Marched straight to her office. I need the contact info of Yer Tereshchenko's parents, I said. She raised an eyebrow. Why? Because I think he's my twin brother. She blinked. That's dramatic. It's also real. Please. I'm not giving out phone numbers. When your Yer gets back, talk to him. Stonewall. I went back to my room, deflated. Grandma called. Well, did you find anything? Maybe, I said. Alia, the nurse at the hospital, she remembers Mom. She said she gave birth to twins. 2 boys. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then, that's not possible. She remembered Mom. Described her perfectly. I was told one baby died. She said both survived. One was given to the father. The other went to the orphanage. But your father didn't raise you, Grandma whispered. I did. Maybe he took the other one. No, that can't be. Silence stretched between us like a canyon. Finally, she said, Yer, this is too much. No, Grandma. This is everything. I hung up and collapsed onto the bed. I needed answers, and there was only one other person who might have them. My father. The man who bailed the moment Mom died. He lived in the same city. We barely talked, but I had to try. I called him. Hey, can we meet? It's important. A couple hours later, we were sitting across from each other at a cafe. It felt weird, forced. So, he said, sipping his coffee. Why the sudden reunion? I think I have a twin brother. He blinked. Excuse me. I transferred to a university here. Everyone mistook me for someone else. Same name, same birthday, same face. He frowned. Coincidence. Dad, I said. The hospital confirmed it. Mom had twins. You were there. He went pale. Look, I don't remember much. You don't remember if Mom gave birth to 2 babies? She died that night. Everything was chaos. I was in shock. Don't lie to me. His eyes darted to the side. Okay. There were 2 babies. My chest caved in. I left the hospital. I wasn't ready to raise a child. I didn't think. They told me one died. I assumed. I thought the other went to your grandmother. You abandoned both of us. He didn't answer. I stood up, chair scraping loudly. Forget it. Yer, wait. But I was already gone. Back home, Grandma waited. I didn't even say anything. Just threw my backpack on the couch and stared at her. You talked to your father, she said. I nodded. Did he tell you? Yeah. She sat down slowly. When the hospital called me, they said the other baby hadn't survived. I never questioned it. I just wanted to protect you. By hiding the truth? I didn't know the truth. Not really. I looked at her. The woman who raised me, loved me, lied to me, and I didn't know what to feel. I spent the next few days in a haze. Everywhere I went, people confused me for him. A girl slapped me across the face, yelling about Svetka. A guy cornered me in an alley, and threatened to break my ribs if he ever saw me with her again. I was living his life, and I didn't even know him. Finally, the day came. Yuri burst into my room. He's back. I sat up. Who? The other you. Come on. My legs shook. I followed him down the hallway, heart pounding. And there he was, standing just like me, eyes like mine, breathing my same breath. He looked up and froze. So did I. Holy sh*T, he whispered. It's true. Yeah, I said. It is. We stood there, staring. Mirrored versions of each other. Two lives. One face. And only now, the truth finally coming to light. Looking into his eyes was like staring into a reflection I didn't know I had. But what truly shook me was not how alike we looked. It was how different our lives had been. We stood in the hallway for what felt like forever. Two strangers. One face. Finally, the silence cracked. Yuri Tereshchenko, he said, stepping closer, still eyeing me up and down. That's me, I replied. But maybe not just me. He laughed nervously. This is insane. You have no idea. Yuri, who'd been hovering behind us like a tour guide at a wax museum, cleared his throat. So, should we go inside or just continue this dramatic movie scene in the hallway? We both chuckled awkwardly. It broke the ice. We sat across from each other in the dorm room. The other guys cleared out to give us privacy. So, he started, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. What exactly do you know? Enough to think we might be twins. He tilted his head. That's a hell of a leap. I talked to people at the hospital where I was born. They said my mom had twins. One of the boys was sent to an orphanage. The other, well, I guess that was you. He frowned. No way. My parents told me I was adopted when I was 15, but they said there was no info on any siblings. Yeah, that's what my grandma thought too, that I was the only one. But there's too much that lines up. The dates, the names, the looks, the chaos, he added. Because this, he motioned between us. This is absolutely wild. He grabbed his phone and pulled up some photos. Look, this is me with my parents at the Black Sea last summer. And here, my graduation. I stared at the images. He looked happy, relaxed, like someone who'd always had a stable foundation. I grew up with just my grandma, I said quietly. My dad ditched us right after Mom died. I found out about you by accident. He looked down at the screen for a long moment. I always knew something was missing, he said. I just didn't know what. I exhaled slowly. So what now? He looked up. We do a DNA test. Finally, I was worried you'd ghost me like your ex. He rolled his eyes. Svetka? Oh God. She's not exactly my proudest chapter. Yeah, I figured. I've been punched, slapped, and threatened on your behalf. He winced. Sorry. Guess I owe you a beer. Or a face massage. We both laughed again. Real, honest laughter. It was eerie how natural this felt. Like I'd known him forever. But it wasn't all warmth and jokes. Because underneath it, we were both terrified. What if the DNA test said we weren't related? What if this once-in-a-lifetime connection was just a fluke? A trick of fate? That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the encounter in my head. His voice. His expressions. Even the way he sat. Like me. Only mirrored. I called Grandma. He's back, I said. And it's like looking in a mirror. She went quiet. Then, so what are you going to do? Take the test. You're sure? I have to know. 2 days later, we met at the clinic. We filled out the forms. Gave our samples. Paid the ridiculous fee. When the nurse told us we had to wait a week for results, he groaned. Seriously? A week? Patience, brother. I joked. Don't jinx it, he muttered. But something had shifted. We didn't feel like strangers anymore. We started hanging out almost every day. He showed me his favorite cafe. I dragged him to my favorite bookshop. We played video games. Watched old action movies. Talked about everything. From our childhoods, to our dreams, to our heartbreaks. He told me about growing up with his adoptive parents. Strict, but loving. Private school. Summer trips. I told him about learning to ride a bike on cracked sidewalks. Helping Grandma sell flowers in the market. The nights I spent wishing someone would come back for me. It wasn't jealousy. It was clarity. We had lived two versions of the same life. He had structure. I had survival. He had parents. I had stories. But we both had something now neither of us ever expected. Each other. One night, as we sat on the dorm rooftop, sipping cheap soda and watching the city lights flicker, he asked the question we'd both been dancing around. What if we're not brothers? I looked at him. Then the universe has one hell of a sense of humor. He chuckled. But, I added, DNA or not, I don't think that changes how I feel. How do you feel? Like I've known you my whole life. He stared out over the edge, then whispered, me too. A week passed in a blur. Then came the day. The results were ready. We went to the clinic, both pretending not to be nervous. Our families came too. My grandma, his adoptive parents. It was the most awkward car ride of my life. The doctor handed us the envelope. Are you ready? He asked. We nodded. He tore it open. His eyes scanned the paper. A pause. Then, the DNA test confirms. The DNA test confirms that you are not biologically related. The room froze. It was like someone had yanked the air out of it. I stared at the doctor, convinced I'd misheard. Yair blinked. Wait, what? The doctor handed us the paper. You are not brothers. Not twins. Not even distant relatives. Genetically, you're just two very similar-looking strangers. No one spoke. Yair's mother gasped quietly. My grandma let out a stunned, or, go spee. I felt like I'd been hit in the chest. All this time, all the searching, the theories, the connections, the tension. For what? A coincidence? No, this can't be right, I muttered. The doctor gave me a gentle, but firm look. I know it's hard to accept, but this happens sometimes. Humans are more alike than we think. Yair crumpled onto the nearest chair. So what? This was all just random. His mom placed a hand on his shoulder, visibly shaken. But, your birthday. The name. Everything. It's a rare coincidence, the doctor replied. But not impossible. I didn't hear the rest. My mind went blank. I had been so sure. Every instinct told me we were brothers. Every moment together had felt like déjà vu. How could DNA deny that? As we walked out of the clinic, the silence between us was deafening. Outside, the sun shone mockingly bright. People bustled around like nothing had happened. Like my entire world hadn't just caved in. Yair finally spoke. So that's that. I shrugged. I guess it is. He kicked a stone down the sidewalk. What do we do now? Just go back to being strangers? I don't know, I said honestly. Feels weird. Like unfinished. We stood at the curb, waiting for his parents to pick us up. My grandma stood a few steps away, arms crossed tightly, her expression unreadable. Do you think it was stupid? I asked. What? All of it. The digging. The testing. Hoping. He looked at me sideways. No. I think it was brave. Crazy. But brave. I exhaled slowly. Then why does it feel like I just lost something I never had? His dad's car pulled up, but before Yair got in, he turned to me. You know, even if we're not brothers, he said, you still feel like family. That hit harder than I expected. Yeah, I said, managing a smile. You too. They drove off, and Grandma and I headed for the bus. We didn't speak for a while, but halfway through the ride, she took my hand. You wanted answers? Ha Adramov, she said gently. Sometimes answers hurt more than questions. Back at the dorm, I sat on my bed staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed. Yair, want to hang out later? Just us. No lab coats. I smiled. Me. Absolutely. The next few days were strange. Not bad. Just strange. We still hung out. Still joked. Still finished each other's sentences. The same as before. But the question mark that had loomed between us was gone. And somehow that made it real. One evening, we sat on the roof again, watching the sun sink over Kiev. Maybe it's better this way, he said, tossing me a bottle of soda. Less pressure. We don't have to be brothers to act like them. I don't know, I replied. Feels like the universe messed with us. Yeah, he laughed. But if the universe brought us together just for a prank, it's got a good sense of humor. We clinked bottles and drank in silence for a moment. Then I asked the question that had been buzzing in my head since we got the test results. Do you ever feel like we still don't know the full story? He looked at me. All the time. What if there's something else? Someone else involved? You mean like a third one of us? He teased. I chuckled. Don't tempt fate. He leaned back, arms behind his head. Honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised anymore. A week later, I received a letter from the city archive. I'd almost forgotten I'd filed a formal request for birth records and hospital documentation. Curious, I ripped it open. Inside was a summary of the hospital records from the day I was born. Patient, Alina Tereshchenko. Status, deceased post-labor. Birth outcome, twin males. Note, one infant passed shortly after delivery. I froze. Wait, what? One infant passed shortly after delivery, but I was alive, which meant I flipped to the adoption page. It listed my name, but then, on a separate page, was the record of another adoption filed that same day. Adoptive parents, Roman and Irina Tereshchenko. Child's name, Yer. Notes, anonymous adoption due to paternal abandonment. My jaw dropped. The hospital told me one baby had died, but two were adopted out. Two different families. Two boys. The DNA test couldn't lie unless Yer wasn't that Yer. Unless the boy adopted by Roman and Irina wasn't the biological twin, which meant someone else could be out there. A third boy, a real twin, a mistake in the system, a mix-up in records? I didn't know, but one thing was certain. This wasn't over. I needed to know everything. I dialed Yer's number. Hey, he answered. What's up? You won't believe what I just found. They lied to us, all of them. That was the first thing I said when Yer met me in the courtyard that evening. He looked confused, but I handed him the letter from the city archive. He read it carefully, his eyebrows rising with every sentence. Wait, what do you mean two boys were adopted? I thought the second baby died. Exactly, I interrupted. That's what everyone thought. That's what they told me. But this record says otherwise. Both of us were adopted out the same day, separately. And now the DNA proves we're not brothers. He looked up, stunned. So there's a third guy out there? I nodded slowly. The real brother. My twin. Somewhere. We stood in silence, the gravity of it settling in. Yer finally asked, Do you think your grandmother knows? I hesitated. If she does, she's hidden it damn well. But after that DNA test, I started to doubt everything. Yer folded the document and handed it back. So what now? We find him. He gave me a look. You're serious? Wouldn't you be? I said. This guy might have been ripped out of my life before I even opened my eyes. He rubbed the back of his neck. This is insane. But okay, I'm in. The next step, find the adoption agency. That turned out harder than we expected. The agency that handled my file had shut down 15 years ago. But with a few late-night rabbit holes, we found the name of a social worker who'd processed both adoptions. Helena Markivna. She was retired now, living in a quiet suburb just outside the city. We decided to visit. The door creaked open to reveal an elderly woman in a knit shawl and glasses. Yes? She asked cautiously. Hi, I said. I think you helped handle my adoption back in 2007. I'm Yer, well, one of them. Her eyes flickered with recognition. Then she opened the door wider. Come in, she said quietly. I was wondering when one of you would show up. That sent chills down my spine. Inside, the house smelled like mint tea and old paper. We sat in her living room, and I pulled out my documents. I found this, I said, handing her the hospital summary. It says 2 boys were born, and I know I was adopted. But I recently did a DNA test with him. I gestured to Yer, and it turns out we're not biologically related. So that means there was a third, she finished, nodding. Yes, there was. I froze. So it's true. She sighed and sat down heavily. That was one of the worst days of my career, she said. There was chaos in the hospital. Your mother passed unexpectedly, and the system was overwhelmed. The father was unreachable. The hospital sent one baby to us, and the other was routed through a different channel. What kind of channel? Yer asked, narrowing his eyes. Helena looked ashamed. A private donor. A man pulled strings to adopt the second boy off the books. No paperwork, no registry. It wasn't illegal, but it was unusual. Quiet. I leaned forward. Do you know who that man was? I don't, she said. But I remember one thing clearly. He was wealthy, powerful, and desperate. The room fell silent. Yer muttered. So someone bought your brother? I clenched my fists. And now he's out there, with no idea who he really is. We left the house shaken. Everything we thought we knew was unraveling. That night, I lay awake in my dorm bed, staring at the ceiling. A third boy, my actual twin, out there, living a life that was never meant for him. The next morning, Yer messaged me. Yer, I've been thinking. You remember that guy who showed up and punched you? The one who thought you were me? Me. Yeah. What about him? Yer, what if he wasn't talking about me? My heart skipped. Me. You think he knows the third one? Yer. Or maybe he is the third one. We decided to track him down. Through a few classmates and a little social media digging, we got a name. Andrei Kovalenko. His profile was locked, but we saw a few photos. And one of them had my face. Not Yer's, Mine. But sharper. Tougher. A scar across the left eyebrow. A life harder than either of us had lived. That's him, I whispered. That's the third. Yera nodded. Looks like you, if you were raised by wolves. Maybe I was, I said. Just in a different timeline. We needed to meet him. But we couldn't just walk up and say, "Hey, want to spit in a cup for DNA?" So we waited for an opportunity. And that came sooner than expected. He was seen entering a gym near the university every evening. Alone. We showed up on a Thursday night. I waited outside. When he came out, I stepped into his path. "Hey," I said. "We need to talk." He stopped. His eyes narrowed. "You again? What do you want?" "You think I'm someone I'm not," I said. "But I think I am someone you need to know." He smirked. "You going to throw more riddles at me?" "No," I said. "Just one question." I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo. It was from my baby album, me in a hospital crib. "Do you recognize this?" His smirk faded. He looked shaken. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice lower now. "I think," I said carefully, "I might be your brother. If this is true, everything I know is a lie." That's what Andre said as we sat on the cold metal benches outside the gym. He didn't talk much at first, just stared at the photo in silence. "I always knew I didn't belong," he finally muttered. "My parents, they're good people, but I always felt like I was inserted into their lives." I glanced at Yer. He looked just as stunned as I felt. "And no one ever told you you were adopted?" I asked carefully. Andre shook his head. "Not once. Not a hint. I was just the miracle baby that came out of nowhere." We explained everything to him. The mix-up at the hospital, the DNA test between Yer and me, and what Helena Markivna, the retired social worker, had told us. Andre didn't say a word through most of it. But when we mentioned the date and hospital, he finally reacted. "That's my birthday. And my mom's told me she never gave birth. She said I came to them. From God." Now I know what she meant. His jaw clenched. "So, one of you is my brother?" I hesitated. "We don't know for sure yet. But everything points to it being one of us. And we're going to find out." He looked at both of us for a long time. Then, slowly, he nodded. "All right," he said. "Let's do the test." A week later, we were all standing in that same sterile clinic hallway again. This time, all three of us. Andre stood with his arms crossed, nervously tapping his foot. Yer tried to keep it light, cracking dry jokes. I just kept replaying every possibility in my head. The nurse stepped out. "Gentlemen," she said, holding a thin envelope. "Here you go." We all froze. She handed the results to me. I'll read it," I said quietly. I opened the envelope with trembling hands. The words blurred for a moment before I blinked them into focus. "Confirmed, biological relationship detected between Andrei Kovalenko and Yer Tereshchenko. Subject 1. No biological relation detected between Andrei Kovalenko and Yer Mykolaevic. Subject 2. My breath hitched. Yer stared at me. "Well," I handed him the paper. He read it, then slowly turned to Andrei. "You're my brother," he whispered. Andrei didn't react at first, just stood still. Then, with a shaky laugh, he muttered, "Guess I'm not crazy after all." It was a strange week that followed. I watched as they started reconnecting, cautiously at first. They spent hours talking, comparing memories, even pulling out baby photos and family stories. And I faded a little into the background, which was fair. I wasn't their blood. I wasn't the missing twin. But I still felt like I belonged in this mess somehow. One afternoon, Yer found me in the courtyard. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah, it's weird, but I'm okay." "You know," he said, "none of this would have happened without you. I just wanted answers." "Exactly. You wanted truth, and because of you, a family got put back together." I smiled faintly. "You guys gonna keep in touch?" He nodded. "He's my brother. Of course I will." Then, he added, "But you're still the first Yer I met. You're stuck with me too, whether you like it or not." I laughed. "Guess that makes us the accidental brothers." 2 months later, Andre invited us both over for dinner. His adoptive parents were there. Nervous, but kind. His mom hugged me and said thank you, even though I barely knew what to say. Over dessert, Yer looked at both of us and asked, "So, does this mean we all have to start dressing differently so people stop confusing us?" Andre smirked. "Not a chance. I like keeping people on edge." We laughed. It was warm. It felt real. Even if fate had tangled our paths in the most bizarre way possible. And just like that, I wasn't alone anymore. I didn't gain a blood brother, but I got something close enough. Two, actually. Because sometimes, family isn't about DNA. It's about who shows up when everything else falls apart.